Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. I'm Cloud Surfer Tom. I'm sorry it's been a while since I posted a video. With everything that's been going on in the world, it's been a pretty crazy time and I've been really busy, so I haven't been able to do anything. And I've also been playing Final Fantasy VII. And that's what my video is about today. I wanted to talk about my opinions on the game, what I felt when I was playing it, and talk about the controversial ending as well, and my opinions on where the series is going, and sort of the other people's opinions as well. Because I've been watching quite a few people talking about it, and I felt like I want to put my 10 cents in as well. It's split the fan base, you know. I think the general consensus is, from what I've seen, is that they love the game, and my personal opinion is that it's the best Final Fantasy that we've had in a long time. You know, if it was just a Final Fantasy on its own, I don't think, like, if it wasn't remaking one of the most beloved Final Fantasies ever, then I think people, you know, would like just say it's really damn good. And again, my personal opinion is that it is one of the best Final Fantasies that we've had in a very long time. That's only amplified when I consider that it's of Final Fantasy VII, which is like, it's the reason that I got into gaming. Like, it was the first role-playing game that I'd ever played. I'd played a few games before that, going back to like the Super Nintendo, and yeah, that was my earliest console, I think. And I'd played games before that, but a proper JRPG with Final Fantasy VII was the first. And I think I've talked to lots of people about this, and some people here say Final Fantasy VIII is their most favourite game, or Final Fantasy VI, or whatever. And it seems to me that the best Final Fantasy tends to be the one that you played first. I know that's not the case in everyone, but Final Fantasy is like a child's dream, you know, and like the leading JRPG, you know, in my opinion. So like an entryway into JRPGs, you tend to start with Final Fantasy, and the first one that you start with tends to be the one that's closest to your heart. So anyway, I'm blabbering. Final Fantasy VII is basically anything that's ever been brought out to do with Final Fantasy VII since Final Fantasy VII came out. I've played it. I've played Dirge of Cerberus multiple times, Crisis Core. I could recite the script from Advent Children because I've seen it so many times, you know. And I've always, maybe like once a year since the game first came out, gone back and completed it, you know. I'm that mad over it. So as you can imagine, when 5 years ago, when they said that it was going to be remade, I just went mental, you know. And when people said that they weren't sure that it was such a good idea, you know, because of various concerns that are coming out right now, I just was so happy that we were going to get to see all these iconic scenes in today's graphics, you know. And going into Final Fantasy, coming up to the lead up to the game, my opinion didn't change. I knew that I was going to love it. And obviously, I'm creating a bias here. You know, you're all getting an idea of what I'm going to say about the game. And to put it bluntly, I loved it. Like, looking at like the core gameplay, I thought the combat was fantastic. Really intuitive. The strategy was there. You know, like there's genuine fights even just in normal mode where I have had to like sort of set out my materia in a tactical way, you know, and arrange my party. And sometimes I thought, oh, I can't use Tifa here, I'll use Barrett or whatever, you know. So yeah, I think and just cinematic, like it was a cinematic experience. Every single boss fight, it there's such flashy moments going on, you know. It again had everything that I wanted it to have. The classic mode felt like a good addition. I've tried it a little bit, but I prefer to have that control, you know. So I did try in classic mode, but I'm just doing a second playthrough of hard, sorry, and then I'm going to go back to do it again and do the whole game through classical. So yeah, in terms of the combat system and the general gameplay, I thought it was pretty much flawless. There were some technical issues, some bugs and texture problems, which I don't know should have been happening, to be fair. Like, if you look back to Final Fantasy 15, which didn't come all that long ago, and in terms of file sizes, there's something closer to, I think, probably the world of Final Fantasy 15 is actually bigger than 7's remake. So, I mean, the texture issues could have been, you know, addressed. But did it spoil my experience? No, not all. There was, like, some of the technical issues and stuff. I could look past that when you go to Aerith's house for the first time and you see everything sort of laid out in front of you. It's just gorgeous, just absolutely beautiful. And the detail that they did put into it, I think, was just overall, I just added to the experience, the visuals of the party members, and some of the scenes, they just look fantastic. I think they did a really good job with the character building as well. The voice acting, both in Japanese and in English, they just did so much to build this relationships between them and your relationship with the characters again, and it gave a whole new life to the characters, to Tifa and Aerith. I looked at Aerith in a completely different way this time, you know, and that's the beauty of voice acting and facial recognition stuff, you know, subtle cues in a person, you can pick up on them when you can't in 2D, you know. So yeah, I think what they did with the characters was fantastic. There could have been like some of the more minor characters within the game, say like Scarlet and not so much Hojo, but like Palmer and things like. I know you didn't see them much in the first game, and Sephiroth. I think one of the main sort of complaints that people have are that if you're coming into this as a brand new experience, we, like, people that played the game originally and have grown up with it and have seen all these spin-offs and stuff that have got Sephiroth in, we understand why he's bad, you know, we understand why Cloud wants to stop him, we understand why the party don't like him, you know. But I don't think that it's difficult, because going into it knowing all that, it's difficult to see the game and think, would I know Sephiroth at that point, you know, because I know him well, you know. But I do agree that they could have put more, say, emphasis on who Sephiroth was and what his motivations were, because even me at the end, I found that like I was a little unclear on what Sephiroth actually wanted, you know, like coming away from it, what was Sephiroth's goal? Because he talks about saving the planet, but we all know that's not true. Maybe in his mind he does think he's saving the planet. So I think some of the more minor characters could have had a bit more spotlight, you know, a bit more character building, because we look at Scarlet and she's just she's a dominatrix style character that is a badass, you know, but we know nothing more. Like new people will know nothing more about her than that, you know. So I think, yeah, like I get it. There could have been, you know, a little bit more put into those characters. But if you look at like how the game spanned out and sort of the route that you took towards the end, I don't think that you could see where the focus was, you know, where the focus was. And I'll talk about the story. So the story, I would have been happy if they hadn't changed anything. Like, just happy, you know, like seeing it and reliving it, and then going into the next part knowing what was going to happen. But on the flip side to that, it's like, so I was playing through this game and I knew how long I got left, and that made me a little sad because every chapter goes by and I think I'm getting close to the end. I know where it ends, you know. So I think in making such a big decision, then Square Enix knew what it meant, what the game means to people, what the story means to people, and I think them deciding that we're going to change it takes balls, you know. I think it takes strength to be able to go, you know, like, we've got the original story that'll never go away. This isn't a chance to experiment, you know, and that breathes a fresh breath of life into the series for me, because I'm very excited about what comes next, you know. When I start the game and I go through 5 chapters, I have no idea when it's going to end. It could end at the 6th chapter, or it could end in another 10 chapters, you know. And that was something for me from playing through the remake. Like, I didn't want it to end, and I knew that the end was coming. And you get to the Shinra HQ, and although there's a lot more content after that, if you think about it, like it takes a number of hours to get from, because the game makes you feel like that once you leave Sector 8, that when you get to the HQ, you're pretty much at the end straight. So there was a bit more content after that, more than what I was expecting, but I still knew that it was going to end at some point, and that made me feel sad, you know. So going into the next chapter, I feel like that we're going into it and a lot could change, and we have no roadmap, you know, or just a little bit could change, and we have an idea of where we're going. But that's still exciting that, like, when the build up to this game, when it was building up to releasing, and they were talking about where it's going to take place and stuff, and they said it's going to go up to the end of Midgar, we knew exactly where that was going to end. Whether that was going to take 20 hours to get there or 50 hours to get there, we knew that that was the end. We have no idea now, you know. We have no idea. It could end at Temple of the Ancients, or it could end further on than that. It could end at Nibelheim. We might not even go to Nibelheim, you know. I hope we do, but we might not, you know. And I think that we will go to those places, and I think, just like in this game, they stayed within the bounds of the story and the template that was laid out from the first game. I think that's very much going to be what we're going into in the next game. I think that we're going to follow the pathway, and here, and here is going to be different, you know. And still, that's very exciting to me. And so there's so many iconic scenes in Final Fantasy VII, and back when they first announced it, it would have been horrific to think that they're going to fuck with all these scenes, and I really do get that. Like, these, like, it means so much to me. So seeing these scenes again means so much to me. But so when I saw Ares House for the first time, or when the plate fell, it felt sad. It promoted an emotional reaction within me. Playing the game and seeing these amazing scenes that I'd wanted to see for years made me feel happy, made me feel excited. Seeing the end of the game made me feel excited, and I got and to me, this is what this entertainment piece is about: making people feel something. And all the way through the game, to me as a fan, I felt something. I would hope that going in with fresh eyes, they feel something too, you know. Going to the end of the game, and I felt sad that it was ending, and I felt extremely excited for what's to come. And that's my takeaway from it, is that we are getting a second part of the game, and they can't ever change what we had before. We still have that. We always will. This is a chance for them to experiment and do something different. Sorry about that. My phone just cut off. So where was I? So yeah, so I wanted to talk a bit more about, so going forward where we are. If you look at what happened in this game, we followed the same pathway, but along the way, these whispers were entities that were trying to make sure that we followed the same path, that what we got at the end was what we got before. And Cloud becomes aware of that, and Aerith gains this insight into them and realizes that there's a way to change that. Like right now, I think the motivations for wanting to change that are unclear. The motivations why Sephiroth, because he seems very aware of Phase 2, and maybe his motivation is that, I fucked it last time, it didn't work for me, so I want another chance to make it right. So but the party members' motivations for wanting it to change, they seem unclear, but hopefully they will become more clear in time. The ending was short, really, and maybe they could have put more time into setting out the intentions. You saw these flashes and glimpses of the end of the original game. You saw what was going to happen, but in my mind, those little glimpses weren't enough for them to get. So we say we saw Aerith's death. Did we? We saw glimpses of the iconic scenes that we know of, but to the characters, was Cloud aware, that he was going to die? I think Aerith was very aware of what was going to happen, so maybe a motivation for her is that I can do it better, I can make sure that I don't die, for one. And if you look at the end of the game, Meteor come in, it wrecked, it pulverized Midgar, and obviously Midgar needed to be shut down, but like Meteor had implications on life and on the planet, so maybe if they are aware that was going to happen, because all they were shown was that the meteor was there. They weren't shown that they stopped it. They weren't shown what Holy did, what the live stream did to counter Meteor. So maybe that in their minds it's like Meteor comes and destroys the planet, so we need to change that, So I think moving forward into the next game, like maybe the motivations are looked into more, and setting. I mean, obviously we know there's going to be a lot more to do with Sephiroth, so I think the moments of character building can really come in there, and make it much clearer who he is and what he's about, and I really hope as well that the new people that have played this has inspired them to learn more about what is going on, so when they go into part 2, they have a better understanding, One thing that I really, really liked was the small details, that this was lovingly crafted, and I think that's another takeaway is that it's heartening to me to know that the people that made this wanted to do the best job they could, and I feel like they did that, putting those little things in. Like, I always remember when you come off the train for the first time into Sector 7, to the right of the stairs, there was a guy that was chatting up a woman, and in my head I thought, oh, isn't that funny? He's like stood there 23 years later and he's still trying to get his end of it, But that made me smile, and I thought that's really, like, that was heartening for me to see that they'd put those little moments in there, that like stuck with you as a kid, and then today I'm playing it as a 30-year-old man, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, And there was lots of little moments scattered throughout the game, and I was like that's really, really good. I liked the additional content too. Losing or potentially losing Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, like, it made it more impactful. And then I guess you could argue that them being alive at the end of the game takes away that impact. But in that moment when the plate was, about to fall, and like Jessie's laid in your arms and she's like bleeding out and all that. That like I challenge any man to not feel sad, you know. So I think they did a really good job with the extra scenes. That it didn't just feel like filler to me. The quests, you could argue that, but for somebody that really enjoys the game, that like wants to be in that world, I felt really good about doing those quests because it just meant that it was longer for me, you know. I was very careful about spoilers. I watched very little gameplay footage, and when the game was released early to people, I basically went dark off the internet, you know, stayed away from everything that I could because I didn't want anything to get spoiled for me. But I happened upon something that was an article that was talking about the length of the game, and I just sort of quickly, you know, like clicked off of it and went away. But the impression that I got was that the game was really short. So again, this was another thing for me. I was getting to my overall gameplay like up to the end, and I haven't done like hard mode yet. I'm like halfway through. My overall gameplay was 55 hours when I finished the game, and I spent a lot of time in there. You know, like I was just like training and stuff. You know, so that's not the average playthrough, and I get that like people did complete it in 35 hours or whatever. You know, but for me, it was like I just wanted to be in that in that world, you know. So I just spent a lot of time in it, and I just walked around and just looked at things, you know. I feel uh, like as a gamer, as Square Enix marketed this game for people, I hope that's what, you know, they want, is for people to like, you know, sort of be in that world, you know, look and like, well, when you're in Sector 7 and you look up and the plate's above you, you know, that's like, oh, holy shit, that is so cool, you know, just little things like that, you know, that I took in. So my overall gameplay was a lot longer, but people have been saying that their gameplay is shorter, and I think, well, I never once felt bored, and I never once felt like I didn't have anything to do at 55 hours, you know. So are you rushing through it, you know? Because if you are rushing through it, then like maybe you're not playing the game properly, you know. Some people just play quicker as well, you know. I think generally the gameplay hours are around 40, you know, which some people say is short for a JRPG, and I've played longer JRPGs definitely. But I didn't feel like the length was a problem, you know. So I was happy with that. I think it was always going to be a game that splits people, you know. Some people just wanted it to be exactly the same, you know, be what it was before, and that's the point. It's not my story. Like, it's a story that I love, but it's their story, you know. It's their story to tell, and I'm happy for them to tell it in whatever medium or whatever way they want to tell it, you know. And I'll sit and I'll listen to it, you know. But I appreciate other people's opinions too. I just don't agree with them. I loved the game, and I'm very happy. And there's so much more that I could talk about, but I'll just be droning on about the same things, and how entertaining is it watching like a 30-year-old man say over and over again, I love this game. I love this game, you know. So thank you for joining me today. I hope that my opinions on it were concise and clear, and I tried to get my point across in a way that wasn't stepping on people's toes and being stupid. But if you agreed with me, like, good on you. Any comments or observations, if you leave them in the comments. Thank you very much for being with me today. I'll hopefully be getting back to a better upload schedule in the next couple of weeks. I've not got really much to play now, so I'll just be going over like back catalogue and you know, maybe making some more videos on Honkai Impact and stuff like that. So, but I'll try to get like more content out there as quickly as I can. Thank you very much for being with me today. Take care. Stay safe.